The series begins with Bea sitting with her mother, Andrea, her brother, Nick, his wife, Sophie, and their children, Michael and Ethan. The family has gathered to celebrate Andrea's birthday. Sophie gives Andrea the gift they all contributed to, but Bea gets upset when she discovers that Sophie got a plant pot, even though they had agreed on something else. Bea considers this a selfish act by Sophie because she changed the gift without telling her. Nick then intervenes on behalf of his wife, and he doesn't like what Bea is saying, but Bea replies angrily, which makes him lose his temper and kick her out of the house. Bea leaves the house in a fit of rage and goes out to a nightclub. She dances and drinks a lot to forget what happened. Afterward, she goes to the bathroom, and there she logs onto a dating app, chooses a specific guy, and gets to know him. When she's finished, she drops her phone in the bathroom. She rushes back to her apartment and puts her phone in rice to absorb all the water from the phone so it can work again. The next day, Bea goes to the hospital where she works as a nurse. We see her helping a patient named Vince. It appears they are friends. We learn that Vince is a computer expert, and he keeps showing Bea videos he's watching to pass the time. Bea is shocked when she discovers that one of these videos shows her brother, Nick. He is holding a piece of paper that says he assaulted and tortured a woman. Afterward, he raises another piece of paper that says if this video gets 5 million views, he will die. It's clear that Nick has been beaten and tortured, and Bea understands that someone forced Nick to make this video. Bea gets nervous and scared for her brother and doesn't know what to do, but she quickly regains her composure and calls Nick from the hospital phone, but the phone is off. She then calls Sophie at the school where she works. At that moment, the employee refuses to let her talk to her unless she knows the reason. Bea ends the call and goes to the sports center where Nick works. Here, she meets Mike, Nick's colleague, and learns from him that Nick didn't come to work that day. Bea shows him the video, and he gets very worried. He takes her to the center's manager, Dawn, to find out if Nick checked in that day. She tells them that Nick didn't come to work even though he had an important meeting. Bea gets worried and leaves them and goes to Sophie quickly. When Sophie sees the video, she is terrified and worried about her husband. She tells Bea that Nick left the house in the morning and was on his way to work as usual. They decide to go report it to the police. While they are on their way, they learn that Nick's video has gotten 9,000 views, and the views are increasing. As soon as they arrive at the police station, they file a report about Nick's disappearance and show the officer the video that has spread. Afterward, they meet a detective named Emery, who asks them many questions about Nick and focuses on the topic of torturing women. Sophie answers his questions calmly and tells him that Nick is a very peaceful person and it's impossible for him to harm anyone. As for Bea, she is very nervous because she feels like she's seen Emery before, but she can't remember where she saw him. We learn here that Emery is the guy Bea met on the dating app, but she doesn't remember because she was drunk and not in her right mind at the time. What's strange is that Emery acts as if he's seeing her for the first time. He asks her about her brother and his mental state. Bea tells him that he's asking strange things and forgetting that as time goes by, the video reaches more people, and her brother's life is in greater danger. Emery informs them that he will start an investigation into the case immediately and will let them know of any updates. When Sophie and Bea return home, they discover that Michael and Ethan have seen the video and are very scared. At that moment, Ethan logs into a specific application that might help them find Nick's location, but Ethan couldn't find anything because Nick's phone is off. At this moment, Bea is shocked because the video has reached 300,000 views, and people in the comments are accusing Nick of being a criminal who must be punished. Bea then returns to her apartment and finds that her phone is working. At that moment, she finds a voice message from Nick in which he apologizes for the argument that happened between them last night and tells her that he wants to talk to her about an important matter. Bea rushes to her parents' house and talks to her mother without making her feel that something has happened. She asks her if she talked to Nick the night before after the party, but Andrea tells her that she didn't talk to him. At this moment, a message comes to Bea from Sophie, and she asks her to go to the police station. There, Bea discovers that a new video of Nick has been published on the channel. This time, Nick is holding a paper that says he killed a woman. At that moment, Detective Luca, Emery's colleague, considers this a confession from Nick that he committed a crime and that this means the case will be transferred to a suicide case. But Bea tells them that this is not Nick's handwriting and that if they review the other videos, they will discover that for themselves. Bea emphasizes the idea that Nick is the victim, not the perpetrator, and asks them to do something before the video reaches 5 million views and Nick dies. When Bea and Sophie leave the police station, Bea lets Sophie listen to the voice message that Nick sent and asks her if she can show this message to the police. Sophie tells her that they are already suspicious that Nick has a tendency to torture women, and this message will be evidence that confirms their suspicions. It is better that she not show them the message. While they are talking, Sophie gets a call from a journalist who wants to know information about Nick. This makes Sophie and Bea very angry because this will make the issue a public opinion case, and Nick's reputation will be tarnished in front of people. The problem is that the video is spreading quickly, and its number of views has exceeded 1.5 million views. Bea rushes to the hospital and begs Vince to find a way to find her brother. He tells her that he discovered a website that solves crimes on the internet, and the people on this website are sympathetic to Nick and are trying to analyze the video to get to his location and help him. Bea thanks him and asks him to let her know if he gets any information. After that, Bea goes to the family home and finds many journalists who want to ask her about what happened. She yells at them and asks them to stay away from the house. At that moment, Andrea is heartbroken and blames Bea for hiding what happened to her brother from her. Bea apologizes to her and tells her that she didn't want to worry her and thought the matter might be resolved quickly. When Bea returns home, she sees the news broadcasts talking about the video that has exceeded 3 million views. After that, her friend Vince comes to her and has found an important piece of information. He tells her that the people on the website discovered that the video was filmed inside a truck and figured that out by noticing a transportation company's logo that appeared in the background of the video. Bea thanks him for his help and goes with this evidence to the police, who begin to look for this car through the surveillance cameras in the street. After a while, Bea is terrified when she discovers that the number of views has reached 5 million, which means that Nick has died according to what he said in the video. At this moment, Emery and his colleagues inform her that they were able to find the car, and they all go to its location quickly. When they arrive, they are surprised that the car is empty and no one is in it. They search the area around them but don't find anything to help them. After that, they return to the police station, and there, Luca asks him to go drop Sophie off at home. Sophie there is surprised by the large number of journalists. Emery helps her until she gets into the house. At that moment, there are many officers searching the whole house hoping that they will find any evidence to help them in the case. At that moment, Ethan and Michael are worried and scared for Nick, but Sophie reassures them and tells them that they will find him soon. After that, Luca arrives and asks all of Nick's family to hand over their phones to him so they can search them and make sure that none of them have anything to do with what happened to Nick. And even though they object to being considered suspects in the case, they hand over their phones to the police, but Bea tells them that her phone is lost. During the search, Bea goes outside the house, and Emery goes after her to talk to her. At that moment, he asks her why she didn't reply to the messages he sent her. Bea remembers that she met Emery through the dating app and apologizes to him and tells him that she was drunk and her phone fell into the water. She tells him that she heard that if the period of a person's disappearance exceeds 24 hours, the percentage of their return alive decreases by 50%. Emery tells her that this is true. She asks him to let her know of anything new in the case, but Emery tells her that he has been removed from the investigation because he works in the missing persons department, and the case has now become the jurisdiction of a homicide department. He suggests to her that she submit a request to the police chief and ask her to allow him to participate in the investigation, and then he will be able to help her. Bea is convinced by his words and agrees to it. After that, Emery goes inside the house and begins to search on his own. By chance, he sees Ethan sitting in his room holding a tablet and learns from him that it's Nick's tablet and that no one is using it at the moment. Emery asks him to take it because he might find something important in it to help him in the case, but Ethan tells him that he needs it to keep following the search for his father. Ethan tells him that his father's case has become a public opinion case to the point that the people of the city have created a special application to search for him through it. Emery learns that this application is a map of the places where Nick might be located by tracking the movement of the car in which the video was filmed. And whenever someone searches in a place, they mark it on the map in red. This attracts Emery's attention. He takes the tablet from Ethan and goes to show this application to the police chief. She tells him that she doesn't want civilians to participate in the case. Emery shows her Ethan's notes in which he talks about a big fight that happened between his father and mother. The police chief suspects that Sophie might have a hand in Nick's disappearance and tells him that she will put her under surveillance until she is sure. After that, Emery leaves the police chief's office and searches the map for places that have not yet been marked in red. He goes to one of those places and sees two young men searching in that place and learns from them that they haven't found anything new. The next day, Emery meets Bee in his car, and she lets him listen to the voice message that Nick sent before he disappeared. Emery gets upset and blames her for not letting him listen to this message from the beginning and asks her about the matter that Nick wanted to talk to her about, but Bee tells him that she doesn't know. After that, Emery goes to his work and joins the investigation team. At that moment, they find Nick's bicycle on the road on the outskirts of the city. A force from the search team moves and searches around the area until they find an empty syringe and understand that the criminal injected Nick with it before kidnapping him. After that, Emery goes and meets Sophie and tells her that they found Nick's bicycle and asks her if there were marital problems between her and Nick before he disappeared. It appears that Sophie is not comfortable with the question and tells him that their marital life has nothing to do with Nick's disappearance. Emery begins to suspect her and asks her if she knows her husband's location. Here, Sophie gets upset and refuses to continue talking to him and leaves. She also told him that one day Nick came to the hospital, and his body had many bruises, and he asked her not to tell Sophie anything. Emery writes down the date of that day. While they are talking, it appears on the application that people have found Nick's body. They go to that place quickly. There, they find many people filming the body with their phones, but when they get closer to the body, they discover that it's a dummy with a mask on it that looks like Nick's face. It appears that someone played a prank for fun and nothing more. At that moment, Bee is heartbroken, but Emery calms her down and takes her home. When Emery returns home, he looks at the application to find out where Nick was before he went to the hospital and discovers at that moment that Nick was up all night at the bar. So, he goes there the next day and reviews the camera recordings. At that moment, Emery sees a person attacking Nick and hitting him. He calls Bee and shows her the video and asks her if she knows the person who hit her brother, but Bee tells him that she doesn't know this person. After that, Emery shows the map to Luca and points out the places that people have searched, and he asks him to search behind them because he is sure that they will get to Nick's location. Luca is convinced by his words and takes a force of policemen and goes to search the places that Emery pointed out. At that moment, Emery gets a notification on the application that a group of young men have found Nick's body. He goes to that place quickly and kicks the young men out of there and is shocked when he finds Nick's body thrown in a place near a river. When Bee finds out about the news, she breaks down and keeps crying because of her brother's death. The next day, Emery's colleagues congratulate him because he was able to get to Nick's body. After that, Emery begins to look into Sophie because he is still suspicious of her. By chance, he sees a picture of her with the person who was hitting Nick in the bar. So, Sophie is summoned to the police station. When Emery informs her of the news of her husband's death, she is shocked and asks him how he died. Luca replies and tells her that they found him with a blow to his head. Tears fall from her eyes, and she asks them if they were able to get to the killer. Here, he shows her the video of Nick's fight in the bar. Emery asks her if she knows the man who is hitting Nick. Sophie denies that she knows him, but Emery shows her the picture that brings her together with this man and tells her that he is the #1 suspect in the case and that he might have killed Nick. Sophie gets nervous and tells him that the man's name is Curti and tells him that he was her colleague at school before he left the school 6 months ago. Emery asks her if there was any reason for Curti to fight with Nick. Sophie denies it and tells him that she doesn't know anything. It appears at that moment that Emery and Luca are suspicious of Sophie because she first denied her relationship with Curti, but there is no strong evidence to press any charges against her. When Sophie returns home, she informs her children that their father has died. At that moment, Ethan breaks down and goes to his room. As for Michael, he tells his mother while crying that he will get revenge on whoever killed his father. A little later, Sophie talks to her mother and tells her that she said in the investigation that Curti is her colleague. We learn at that moment that Sophie was cheating on Nick with Curti and is afraid that Curti is the one who killed Nick. Her mother advises her not to say anything about her relationship with Curti at all because the police will consider her an accomplice in the crime, in addition to the fact that people will tarnish her reputation. Suddenly, Bee enters, and she is nervous and tells Sophie that she tried to see her brother's body, but the police refused because she wants to make sure that this body is Nick's body. Sophie tells her that they showed her pictures of the body and that Nick is actually dead. Bee gets sad and tells her that she will stay the night with her. After that, Sophie decides to go to Curti's house. There, she fights with him and asks him why he went to Nick and hid him in the bar. He tells her that Nick was the one who called him and asked to meet him. And when he went to him, he found him asking him to tell him what happened between him and Sophie in detail. Curdy says that Nick was the one who attacked him and hit him first, but Sophie tells him that he is lying because the police showed her the video and she tells him that he was the one who attacked and hit Nick. It appears at that moment that Sophie suspects that Curdy is the one who killed Nick. At that moment, the door knocks, and when Curdy opens it, he finds the police in front of him. It appears that they were monitoring Sophie, and they suspected her after she lied to them in the investigations. Sophie and Curdy are arrested on charges of killing Nick, and they are taken to the police station. During the investigation, Sophie confesses that she was in a relationship with Curdy. She remembers an old memory she had with him when they were celebrating their wedding anniversary. It appears that they were happy, and everyone was jealous of the happiness they were living in, but during the party, Curdy sends a message to Sophie and says that he can't stop thinking about her. Sophie gets nervous and decides after the party to be honest with Nick about her relationship with Curdy. Nick gets angry when he finds out that Sophie cheated on him with Curdy for 3 months. Sophie wakes up from her memories and says in the investigation that she went to Curdy to make sure he was the one who killed her husband or not. Emery tells her that if it is proven that Curdy is the one who killed Nick, she will testify in front of the court about her relationship with Curdy and her betrayal of her husband. The next day, Sophie sees her son, Ethan, watching a video of Curdy's arrest. Sophie tries to stop him from watching the video, but B objects to her action and talks to her alone and asks her if she is hiding something from them. Sophie confesses to her that she was in a relationship with Curdy. Here, B is shocked and tells her that if Curdy is the one who killed Nick, it will be her fault. When B leaves the room, she discovers that Ethan was standing behind the door and heard everything his mother said. Due to his shock, he leaves the house and walks away. Sophie goes after him to catch him and keeps looking for him in the places he might go, but to no avail. At that moment, Sophie discovers that a woman is walking behind her and is watching her. She remembers that she saw this woman in front of the house before among the journalists. She goes to her and asks her why she is watching her. This woman introduces herself and tells her that her name is Emma and tells her that she was in a relationship with Nick. She tells her that she met Nick through one of the dating apps. At that time, Nick had created a fake profile with an alias. At first, Sophie doesn't believe Emma's words, but when Emma tells her the time she met Nick, she starts to believe her because at that time, Nick discovered Sophie's betrayal. What makes Sophie believe her more is that Emma lives in Los Angeles, which is the state Nick always traveled to for his work. Here, Sophie loses her temper and fights with Emma and leaves her and walks away heartbroken. After that, B calls her and tells her that Ethan is at her apartment. She rushes to her there. It is clear that Ethan doesn't want to go home with his mother, but B convinces him to go home because his mother and brother need him. When Ethan leaves, Sophie talks to B and tells her about Emma. B opens the dating app and searches for the alias Nick created on the app. She actually finds his account, but it's not active. Here, B tells Sophie that she will tell her friend Vince and ask him to look into this account to make sure of Emma's words and know if she is lying or telling the truth. After that, Sophie returns home and is shocked when she sees on TV the news of Curdy's arrest and that there are rumors that she was cheating on her husband. Sophie breaks down because of the scandal that happened to her, but her mother hugs her and comforts her to relieve her. The next day, they all go to the sports center to attend the farewell party that Nick's colleagues at work are holding. There, Sophie learns from Emery that they released Curdy because they found evidence proving that he has nothing to do with Nick's murder. This means that someone else killed Nick, and therefore they will start the search for the killer again. At that moment, they have arrived at the party venue. Sophie gets nervous from people's looks at her and feels that they suspect she has a hand in her husband's murder. At that moment, Dawn, the center's manager, comes and greets her and tells her that she is very sad about Nick's death. After that, Matt, Nick's colleague, stands up and eulogizes Nick with emotional words. Here, Sophie can't bear it and gets up from her place while crying, but one of the people there insults her and tells her that she is the reason for her husband's death. Sophie gets angry and pours water on her and breaks down crying, but B goes to her, calms her down, takes her, and they leave the party. At home, B shows Sophie Nick's profile on the dating app after Vince was able to hack into it. Sophie breaks down when she sees Nick's pictures on the app and is sure that he was cheating on her with Emma. The next day, Emma meets Emery and tells him about her relationship with Nick in hopes that she will help them in the case. She tells him that Nick used to send her gifts constantly to her office. Afterward, she learns about his disappearance on the news, so she decides to be close to his family to share their grief and at the same time try to find out who killed Nick. On the day she arrives at the house, she meets a journalist named Ben, who thinks she is a journalist like him, and he gives her his card so they can cooperate together. Afterward, Emma talks about her meeting with Sophie and what happened between them. Emery asks her about Nick's behavior towards her, and she tells him that Nick is a polite person and it's impossible for him to harm a woman as it appeared in the video. When B learns about Emma, she goes to her at the hotel she's staying at. B thinks that the relationship between Emma and Nick was superficial and doesn't give her the right to come to his house and meet his wife. Emma tells her that she and Nick had agreed to get married and that Nick was planning to divorce his wife Sophie after his son graduates from high school. B is surprised when she learns that Nick talked about their childhood days together. When B hears this, she is sure that Nick and Emma loved each other, so she gives her phone number and asks her to stay in touch. At night, Emma gets a call from an unknown person who threatens her that she must leave the city and leave Nick's family alone. Emma is startled by the call and decides to leave. While she is walking, she sends B a voice message and tells her what happened. She gets in her car to leave the city and escape, but she is surprised that there is a car following her. This car keeps getting closer to her until it hits her and causes her to have an accident. Afterward, Emma is taken to the hospital. Emery and B go to her there to check on her. Emery then says that the person who killed Nick knows her well and is probably the one who hit her with the car. After that, they leave Emma, and B is surprised when she learns from Emery that Nick has 3 accounts on 3 different dating websites and gets to know many women through them. After he ends his relationship with her, he deletes the profile. So, she goes back to Emma and tells her what happened and tells her that Nick met a woman named Mandy who works as a painter. Emma gets upset when she hears this and decides to go to Mandy to find out the nature of her relationship with Nick. At that moment, Emma is shocked when she learns that Nick was telling them the same things and acting with them in the same way. But the difference is that Mandy didn't believe Nick's words and ended her relationship with him. Emma discovers that this Mandy had painted a picture of Nick at the beginning of their relationship. Emma takes it and burns it in revenge for his betrayal of her. After that, she talks to Ben on the phone and tells him what happened. Ben seizes the opportunity and records a journalistic interview with her. During the interview, Emma says that Nick emotionally exploited her, which means that the words Nick wrote about himself in the video were true. At that moment, Ben is happy with this journalistic interview, but his boss at work asks him to try to get to the rest of the women Nick met. So, Ben decides to go to Nick's house and pretends to be a delivery guy, filming everything in the house with his phone. But B and Sophie see him and threaten him that they will call the police. He tells them what Emma said in the journalistic interview and offers Sophie to do an interview with her in which she responds to Emma's words, but Sophie refuses and asks him to leave the house immediately. He gives her his phone number so she can call him if she changes her mind and leaves them and goes. After that, B meets Emery and tells him about the journalistic interview that Emma did. B wants to prevent this interview before the channel airs it, but Emery tells her that the police can't do that because there is no law that prevents journalistic interviews of this type. He tells her that this interview will help them catch the criminal. At night, Ben is reviewing the comments on Nick's video. At that moment, a comment by a girl named Jenny catches his attention. She attacks everyone who defends Nick and says they are criminals just like him. He learns that Jenny trains at the sports center where Nick works. The next day, he goes to meet her and asks her if there were problems between her and Nick. Jenny tells him that she heard her teammate Tara fighting with Nick before and it was clear from their words that Nick deceived her and made her believe that he loved her, and then he ended his relationship with her, which made her depressed and leave the team and go. Ben goes to the restaurant where she works and asks her about her fight with Nick, but Tara refuses to answer him and tells him that it's not important. After that, Ben returns to the office and is surprised that Sophie is in the channel manager's office. We learn at that moment that Sophie wants to file a lawsuit because Ben trespassed into her house. But the channel manager offers her to do a journalistic interview and tells her that she will air this interview before Emma's interview. This way, she will win people's sympathy, and no one will believe anything Emma says afterward. Sophie is convinced by her words and agrees. Ben is happy with what happened because he thinks he's the one who will do the interview with Sophie, but the channel manager tells him that he is excluded because he trespassed into Sophie's house. Ben gets upset and returns home. He keeps looking into Nick until he discovers that Nick has a profile on a dating website under the name Jeremy. Ben succeeds in hacking the profile and discovers that Nick is in a relationship with a girl named Sarah. When he looks into her, he sees a picture of her in a library. So, he goes to this library and asks about her and is shocked when he learns that Sarah died 4 months ago. He looks for more information about Sarah and learns that she has a brother named Simon. He decides to go and meet him to learn more information about her, but when he knocks on the door, no one opens for him. By chance, he finds the apartment key under the doormat in front of the door, so he opens the door and enters. He searches inside the apartment until he finds a box under the bed with Sarah's things, and among them is her phone. At the same time, his colleague who is waiting for him in the car calls him and warns him and tells him that Simon, Sarah's brother, is coming to the apartment. Ben hides until Simon enters and sits down to smoke. Ben seizes this opportunity and leaves the apartment quickly, but Simon hears the sound of the door, runs after him, and chases him. So, Ben gets in the car with his colleague, and they escape before Simon can catch them. When Ben returns to his house, he is able to open Sarah's phone and searches it for information about her. At that moment, he finds the messages between her and Nick. It appears from them that Sarah was mentally ill and that when she met Nick, she felt that her life became better and her condition improved, but she was shocked when Nick decided to end his relationship with her to the point that she threatens him that she will harm herself. Nick replies to her without interest and ends his relationship with her. Here, Ben understands that Sarah harmed herself because of Nick. The next day, he takes these messages to the channel manager and asks her to let him do the interview with Sophie. The channel manager agrees because this news will cause a big media sensation. The day of the interview comes, and the conversation is calm and going well until Ben confronts Sophie with Nick's and Sarah's messages and tells her that Nick is the reason for Sarah's death after he manipulated her feelings and abandoned her. Sophie is shocked and gets so angry that she ends the interview and leaves. When Sophie returns home, she discovers that the channel is airing the interview, but the messages between Nick and Sarah appear as voice messages. We learn here that Ben used artificial intelligence to do that in order to expose Nick and show his true self to people. At this moment, Simon sees what's happening on TV, and it's clear that he is upset and angry. We go back in time, specifically to the day when Simon discovers that she is talking to Nick on dating websites. Simon warns her about the danger of these websites, but as time goes by, he notices that Sarah is happy with her relationship with Nick, in addition to the fact that her condition improved, and she started living her life normally. After a while, Simon is surprised that Sarah's condition has deteriorated again. When he asks her, he learns from her that Nick ended his relationship with her. After that, Simon is at work with his friend Daryl. Suddenly, he gets a call from Sarah, and she is crying hysterically. She apologizes to him and asks him to forgive her. Simon gets scared for her. He goes home quickly but is shocked when he enters her room and finds her dead. In the present time, we see Emery visiting Simon at his work and asks him if his sister told him anything about her relationship with Nick, but Simon lies and says that she didn't say anything about him. Emery asks him where he was on the day Nick disappeared. He tells him that he was fishing with his colleague Daryl. As soon as Emery leaves, Simon sends messages to Daryl and tells him not to answer any strange number that calls him and informs him that the detective took his phone number to ask him about Sarah's case. We go to B, who discovers that Nick's picture that was hanging on the wall is put in a box and learns that Sophie is the one who did that. So B takes her aside and tells her that the messages that were aired don't sound like Nick's way of talking, but Sophie tells her that she should accept the truth instead of denying it. B gets upset and takes Nick's picture and leaves. We go back to Simon, who has Daryl sitting in front of him and is making him memorize the answers he's supposed to say to the police when they interrogate him. It appears that Daryl is scared and tells Simon that he can't do that. It's clear that Simon and Daryl have a big secret, and at that moment, Simon is surprised when he finds Daryl so confused, and therefore if the police summon him and interrogate him, their secret will be revealed easily, so he agrees with him that they should escape from the city. The next day, Simon has his bag and is about to leave, but he finds Emery in front of him. Emery asks him to get in his car and follow them to the police station so they can investigate him. Simon agrees and goes to get in his car and actually follows him, but suddenly, he backs up the car, gets out of it, and starts running. Emery runs after him, and after a long chase, he is able to arrest him. At the police station, Emery informs Simon that they arrested Daryl and he confessed to everything. Simon tells him that he was going to confess but only in front of B, Nick's sister. When B comes, Simon apologizes to her and tells her that Nick is not the reason for what happened to his sister and tells her everything that happened. We go back in time and learn that after Sarah died, Simon decided to look for Nick to get revenge on him. He learned that he works as a physical therapist at the sports center, so he and Daryl waited for him on the road while he was on his way to work. As soon as he appears, they jump on him, inject him with a sedative, and kidnap him. When Nick wakes up, he finds himself tied up inside a car. At that moment, he confronts Simon with what he did to his sister. Nick is surprised and tells him that he doesn't know his sister and never even talked to her. But Simon hits him and forces him to film the videos that were published. After that, Nick asks Simon if he has any evidence to prove that he is the reason for what happened to his sister. Simon shows him his account on the dating website. At that moment, Nick is shocked and tells him that this account is not his. He tells him that he never cheated on his wife with any other woman, but Simon shows him a picture of him with Sarah. Nick says that this picture is fake and that he doesn't know anything about it. He tells him that the real picture was one he took with his wife and tells him that he feels the agony he is in because his father harmed himself and died when he was still young. He tells him that he and his sister B suffered a lot because of this and it's impossible for him to be a reason for someone to suffer like them. He asks him to look at the picture carefully, and he will be sure that it's photoshopped. At that moment, Daryl takes Simon to talk with him outside the car and tells him that the video has already reached 5 million views and they must get rid of Nick. At that moment, Nick sees a sharp object near him, so he uses it and is able to free himself and escape, but Simon runs after him and catches up to him. At that moment, Nick tells him that he knows who did that to his sister because there is only one person who can access his personal pictures. He begs him to let him go and promises him that he won't go back home until he hands this person over to the police so they can be punished for what they did to Sarah. It appears here that Simon believes Nick's words, and that's why he lets him go. In the present time, B believes Simon's words, but Emery thinks that Simon is lying to save himself from the case. After that, B tells her family that Simon told her that he didn't kill Nick and says that she believes him and that someone used Nick's pictures to trap him. After that, Ethan is in his room and sees a video of Mandy and the journalists asking her about her relationship with Nick, and she refuses to answer. Ethan seizes the opportunity and sends her a voice message asking her if she met his father during their relationship. The next day, he gets an email from Mandy in which she tells him that she never met Nick at all. He goes to show this email to B, and at that moment, B is sure that Nick is innocent. She takes Ethan, and they go to Emery and tell him what Mandy said, but Emery tells her that they are already going to close this case. Ethan gets upset and refuses to give up. He goes to meet a friend of his named Allison and tells her everything that happened. She advises him to talk to Emma to make sure his father is innocent. Ethan listens to her and calls Emma and asks her if she saw or met his father during their relationship. She tells him that she was talking to Nick every day but never saw him. At that moment, Ethan and Allison are very happy with what they heard. After that, Emma sends Ethan the pictures of Nick that he sent her. Ethan asks Allison to track the source of these pictures and find out who sent them. When Ethan returns home, he is surprised that Sophie has decided to take them and leave the city. At that moment, Michael gets upset and leaves them and goes. At that moment, Ethan shows Sophie Mandy's email and Emma's messages in order to let her know that his father wasn't cheating on her and tells her that he will very soon find out who is behind all of this. Michael hears this and goes to Ethan's room quickly. He looks at the computer because he wants to be part of what's happening and find out who is the reason for his father's death. By chance, Allison sends a message to Ethan and tells him the address of the person who sent the pictures to Emma. At bedtime, Sophie enters Michael's room to check on him as she does every day, but she is shocked when she discovers that he jumped out of the window and left the house. When Ethan finds out, he goes to the computer to track Michael's phone. As soon as he sees Allison's message, he understands that Michael saw it. Ethan informs his mother that he knows where his brother went. Sophie quickly calls B and tells her what happened. B is startled and tells her that she will come and bring the police with her. At that moment, Michael is holding a baseball bat and going to the address he saw in the message. At that moment, Ethan and Sophie call him, but he doesn't answer them. When he arrives at the address, he discovers that this house is Dawn's, the sports center manager. He gets nervous and feels that something wrong is happening. As soon as Dawn sees him and asks him the reason for his visit, he tells her that he is looking for the person who killed his father but got the address wrong. Dawn lets him in to make him food and then have her husband Ed take him home. During dinner, Ed gets up to get the car keys. Dawn goes after him and sees him taking out a gun and planning to kill Michael. Ed blames her and tells her that all of this is because of her actions. We go back in time 2 years and are on Nick's first day at the sports center. At that moment, Dawn asks Nick to register his data on the center system, but Nick tells her that he isn't into that stuff and gives her his internet account and password and tells her to register his data herself. He leaves her and goes because he has an important meeting. At that moment, Dawn is surprised when she discovers that Nick has an account on dating websites and gets a message from Mandy, who wants to get to know him. At first, Dawn ignores the message, and when she returns home, she finds her husband distant from her as usual, and she feels a great boredom in her life. So she decides to open Nick's email, get to know Mandy, and send her pictures of Nick. From that time on, Dawn liked the idea and got to know many girls, including Emma and Sarah, and she keeps editing Nick's pictures and sending them to them or putting them on his accounts until one day Ed discovers what she is doing and fights with her and tells her that she is sick and needs to be treated. He leaves her and goes. On that day, Dawn gets angry and talks to Sarah in a bad way and ends her relationship with her. This is the reason that made Sarah harm herself. After a while, specifically on the day Nick escaped from Simon, Dawn is surprised that Nick came to her house and fights with her and tells her that Sarah died because of her. He tells her that he discovered what she was doing because she is the only one who has the password to his internet accounts. He also tells her that he will go and report her to the police and have her imprisoned, but suddenly Ed comes from behind and hits him on the head and gets rid of him. In the present time, Dawn and Ed take Michael in the car on the basis that they will take him home. Michael is surprised that they are driving on a deserted road. He gets worried and asks them why they are driving on this road. Ed tells him that this road is a shortcut and will get them there quickly, but Michael doesn't believe his words and takes out his phone to call one of his family members. Dawn sees him, takes his phone from him, and throws it out of the car. After that, they take him to their house outside the city limits, and there, Ed ties him up until he sees what he will do with him. At that moment, Dawn begs Ed not to kill him and that what happened is enough and tells him that she will confess to the police that she impersonated Nick on the internet, which is a simple crime, and its punishment is not big. As for the matter of Nick's murder, no one will know that he is the one who killed him because no one knows that Nick came to their house at all. At this moment, Michael hears their words and is able to free himself and escapes from them. Ed runs after him to get rid of him, especially after he heard their words. Dawn runs after her husband and begs him not to kill Michael, but Ed doesn't listen to her and continues on his way. At this moment, Emma and Sophie arrive at Dawn's place, and they have Emery and a large force of police with them. Dawn is arrested and confesses to what she did and goes with them from the same road that Ed took. There, they find Ed holding Michael and threatening to kill him. Dawn talks to him and tells him to let him go and that what they did to his family is enough. Ed is convinced by her words and lets him go back to his family, but Ed refuses to surrender himself to the police and decides to harm himself. So he raises his weapon at the police, and without hesitation, they shoot and kill him. At that moment, Dawn breaks down and runs to Ed while crying and keeps apologizing to him and tells him that she is the reason for his death. After a few days, the time for Nick's funeral comes, and Sophie is heartbroken and keeps crying. Bea comforts her and tells her that she will stay by her side and won't leave her until they overcome their sorrows and continue their lives normally. This story teaches us that what we see on the surface isn't always the whole truth, and that digging deeper can reveal shocking secrets. If you enjoyed this summary, be sure to subscribe and turn on notifications for more video summaries of movies and series.